Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out to Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Billy Highvault, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Chow Yun Cat, Dank, Dave Rakia Gafford, David Wayne Foster, Edwin Johnson, Erwin Jennisons, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin, Henrik86, Jeranism, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Liam Nedrick, Life is Short, Matt, Nagara, Naibai, Qatar Craig, Reinhardt, Renee, Sally Ballis, Silver Umbrella, Skeptic936, Texas Mike, The Flat Earth, Sun, Moon and Zodiac Clock App, theflatearthchannel.com, Tina Baker and Tom Hawkins. So a massive shout out and much appreciation to all of you who do support me on Patreon. Now we are joined by a few people in G Plus and Discord. I haven't actually taken anybody off mute in Discord, but we'll unmute the G Plus panel and say hello to the One, Sleeping Warrior, Righteous Force and Flatzoid. Hello, welcome all.
Good afternoon.
And 10th man as well. Hello.
Hello, I just got back on.
How's it all going?
Wonderful.
Also got
Nice and flat.
We've also got Ryan Eartherton and Dougie in Discord. Don't know if they want to say hello.
Hello.
Hello, good to have you. We haven't actually started the live show yet, just in case you're worried that this has to be a continual diatribe of conversation. It doesn't, because we haven't actually started.
Nathan, let me just screen share. You need to see this.
Okay.
Everybody in chat should watch this as well. This is going to be interesting because this may or may not happen. Let's have a look. Fucking hell, where's the thing? There it is. Share screen. Okay, so I finally ran into... Oops. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Finally ran into Danny Faulkner in real life. Flat Earth Globe Earth discussion group. I don't know who owns it. I just saw that he was posting there. Someone sent me a link saying this is where he is right now. So I've plugged in my advert that I'm assuming that most people have seen by the time you're watching this video. If you haven't, go and check it out on my channel. It's only about a minute long, but it's basically satirical against this book Falling Flat from Danny Faulkner. And I mentioned how he tries to debunk the flat Earth claims, yet doesn't mention Einstein once when he's referencing gravity. And I wanted to know a couple of questions. I wanted to ask him a couple of questions. And I asked him, like, how is it that you can not mention Einstein once when you're talking about gravity? How can you refute the FE claims when you're citing the science from World War I? Science does not think of gravity as a force anymore, Danny. Did you forget, or was it overt deception? The effect of your omission is that people reading your book will think that you've refuted FE claims, but not know that nobody in physics thinks of gravity as a force anymore. What went wrong, buddy? And then he said, it's utter nonsense spread by flat earthers. And then I said, well, how did you refute Einstein as the current authority? You are pioneering science there, Danny, regressing back to a World War I science, but claiming it's the current position correctly being cited to you now is utter nonsense. What is your authority to debunk Einstein? And then he's not responded. So I said, are you doing the same thing with me as you did with Nathan at the FEC conference when he asked you how you can have gas pressure without a container? Nothing. And now he's still not responded. And I've said, hey, Danny, I'll be broadcasting live at the top of the hour, 30 minutes from now. Why not join me and let's discuss gravity? I'm sure the live audience would love to hear you plug your book. Join me. I've given him the link. So just be wary, Nathan, if any weirdos get the link. But hopefully Danny will actually join. He won't join. We all know he's not going to join. But I just wanted to document that I've challenged him to see if he will join. Because I'd love to hear his... I mean, even if he plugs his book, I'd love to hear his views on gravity not being Einstein, because it is the current science as per all the literature. He's lying to people, and I want to challenge him. So, Danny, join us. Let's have a conversation about gravity.
Yeah, but he knows he's lying, so he won't show.
I know. That's why I've challenged him.
You can look at his book as a good tool for exposing the pseudoscience. Just read the book, know what pseudoscience is.
I might go and buy his book in hard copy and stick it under my bed as a stop, to like fix the wonky leg. And just claim that it's conveniently the right thickness. I'll saw the leg off on purpose and then fit the book under it.
Falling flat.
I was going to say, because of the wonky leg, you kept falling flat, and then you Googled it, and that was the solution.
Well, I think, Anthony, you did great in challenging him in the points you just made. And I think Nathan at the conference did the right thing by asking him those questions. And I think QE in 2016 with unanswered questions. So what seems to be happening is, like I wrote a comment under your video. Let me see. Those who cannot debate write books and mock. Those that debate run into natural law and the absence of the scientific method as they are citing it. 8 housekeeping questions still go on unanswered. So they think we're this funny little group of people who just are in the flat earth type of a cult, when they have no idea the work and effort some of us have gone into to study, research, and refine the questions and ask the right questions. And when they run into us, it's like, whoa, I didn't expect this. You know more about it than I do.
Yeah, let's see if he joins. I'm hoping he does join. It'd be really cool if we could get him on, even if he plugs his book. It'd be interesting to see how he defends some of the housekeeping questions, because they're all carefully worded, very precise, and he ain't going to be able to answer any of them. And it'd be cool if he just if he became a listener. It'd be great if we could get some kind of interaction with him, like positive. Just demonstrate that the guy doesn't know what he's talking about, but writes books.
He's just going to go, nah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for filling us in. It's good to know the update on the Danny Faulkner situation.
I've just been looking to get in touch with him for ages. I've messaged him on Facebook, and he's either blocked me or he's not even seen it because it's gone into the spam. That hidden spam folder thing on Facebook, which is perfectly fine. But he's not going to get away from me now that I've got a dialogue with him. Come on, mate, answer the questions. How do you have gas pressure without a container? Boom.
So yeah, if you haven't already, check out Sleeping Warrior's video on exactly that subject. What's the title of your video you released this morning?
Danny Faulkner, Falling Flat.
Perfect. So yeah, check it out, Sleeping Warrior channel. If I'm watching this with you on Nathan Oakley, I'll post the link in the chat stream so you can go and watch. Make sure you come back. So Adam Meakin did some fabulous work on the Ballbusters intro and spent a very long time producing it, getting it together with all the different people who participate in that show and putting their name in lights, tagging it all together, putting a few little captions on it. Pseudoscience exposed, or pseudoscience detected, that was it. Bullshittery exposed, things like that. And it ended up being about nearly 4 minutes long, which is obviously way too long for an intro. So after all of his extremely hard work, he gave it to me and I hacked it to pieces to get it down to about 20 seconds and then put it out for a vote in terms of what people thought about the various... I picked a few random, well, not random, carefully chosen pieces of music to go with it just to see what people thought, and then put it out for a vote just to get an idea of what people liked the sound of. It may not be the case that any of those get chosen in the end. Obviously, it's ultimately down to a consensus amongst the Ballbusters, but I wanted to offer up the public view because we were talking about it so much in the Ballbusters Skype feed. So, it ended up being an hour or an hour and a half conversation back and forth on text message with us discussing what's the right music, what should we use? And eventually, after 20 times of asking everyone in Ballbusters, can I just put it out for public opinion? I eventually did, and that was the result. So again, check out that on my channel, on Nathan Oakley 1980. Obviously, you're watching this now on Nathan Oakley channel, so you won't see it on this channel, but on my main channel. Feel free to cast your vote. It seems pretty clear what style, at least, people like or the majority of people. There was definitely no consensus in terms of music, never will be. But there was, a clear winner in terms of the style that people liked for the Ballbusters intro, and a few commenters had given at least me and hopefully anyone who reads it an idea of what they were hoping for in an intro tune. And I think the most, I can't remember who made the comment, but somebody was like, no, this particular one's got a melody that you can hum along to that will stick in your mind. So that's the reason I think it's the best one. It was coincidentally the one everyone else, or the majority of people, liked anyway. So based on that, I went back to that particular library of music and had a look for anything else that would fit better when I lengthened the intro back out again, because it doesn't have to be 20 seconds. That's possibly a bit short. But Adam Meakin sent me Thundercats, one of my favourite shows as a child. I've got very, very fond memories of Thundercats. But he posted a link to the intro to that, and it's like 50, 55, maybe even a minute long. So I was like, oh yeah, I don't remember Thundercats intro being long, but it is. But then you think, well, yeah, but it's absolutely epic, right? Thunder, 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 cats. And there's an awesome intro, so you don't notice that a minute elapses. Whereas just, me, Sleeping Warrior, Paula, Ranty, Arwin, 10th Man, Dr. John D, Quantum Eraser, all of those names going by isn't as cool as Lion-O with a sword that can project a thundercat into the sky. You know what I mean? It's just not going to compare. So it'll probably end up being maybe 40 seconds long, which I think is a reasonable length for an intro to Ballbusters. I don't know what you guys think in terms of the length that it'll end up being, i.e. a bit longer than the 5 that I put out for vote. Yeah, I like number 1. I like number 5. Oh, it's so glad that you guys got involved.
Yeah, that was pretty fun, the back and forth yesterday. I'm sure everyone will hone in on the one that they like.
It was actually number 1. It ended up being that the most popular was number 1. The second most popular was number 2. The third most popular was number 3. Number 4 was the fourth most popular, and the least popular was number 5, just by coincidence, after tossing at the numbers. It might have changed since I last counted them, but certainly when I looked last, that was what the situation was. Number 1 was out ahead, followed closely by number 2.
Maybe we should do a more deeper test on this by relabeling the songs. Number 1 should be number 5, number 4 should be number 2, and see if it still holds up. Maybe it's just people like to go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, I don't think so. As I'm reasonably confident in what people have already said, because a lot of them have put justifications for their choices, and some of them have put multiple choices. So, like, I like number 1, but number 2 is also pretty good, but of the 2, number 1's better. Things like that. So, when you've got a majority of number 1s and slightly less 2s, and a few people saying I like 1, but 2 is okay also, then you've got a good idea that people generally prefer number 1. So I'm happy. It's not like I say that any of those songs might get used. It might be that none of them get used. But you've got to get an idea of what people want, because if people are out there definitely looking for it to have a really heavy metal track, then, and you put out some airy-fairy, easy listening, then that's not going to please the audience, right? But from the general consensus, I don't think that's the case. But it was an option. So that would have been the route that I went down in the library that I looked through to come up with the final choice. But I don't think I've sent it to you guys. I think I sent it to Adam and QE, as he's the host, and Adam was the one who actually produced the video, just to check that they liked it. Added a few details, so I added the sound effect of the Terminator stomping on that skull.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a good addition.
Oh, I did send it then.
Well, I saw that part in the last one. I don't know if that's the very, very last one, but that was good.
Yeah, I subtly got it. I had to make a couple of the transitions not quite match to make it work, which annoyed me. But when I got to about 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, I've been doing this since 7 p.m. I'm going to stop now. So, I'd ignored my wife all night. I just like that sort of thing. When you've got really good source material that, like, Adam had produced, you want to work with it because it's good. It's a joy to work with. And I told him that. I'm like, I've spent a lot of time messing with this because it's ace and it's enjoyable to edit with that sort of stuff. But by the time you get to the end, you want every single transition to match with a whoosh or a swoop or a bang in the music. And when one of them is really crucial and the others aren't, you sacrifice some of them not quite matching up or being a little bit too short in the case of 10th Man's. So the transition for 10th Man's just ended up being a little bit too short to make some of the other transitions work better. But his is more prominent on screen, so I'm like, well, that's okay. But to get the stomp to work, because I wanted the music to seem like it's going to fade out, and then you get the stomp, and then the music comes back in subtly. You know, it's not a really obvious thing, but I wanted it in a particular way, so that you get a slight amount of the shock factor that you got from Terminator 2 when that happens. You know, it's a really quiet overdub. It's like a narration, and then it cuts to a very what seems like calm night, and then the Terminator stomps on the skull, so it's a bit of a jump scare. Well, obviously you can't do that in an intro that's very short with a bit of theme music, but subtly I could, which is just by dropping the music a little bit, having it match one of the beats very nearly. I couldn't get it perfect either. It's just the music's tempo is quicker than the frames, just the way it goes, but close enough for it to visually match. And then the music comes back in, and then the intro rolls out with the same bass roll that was sort of cut because of the stamping. But all that kind of faff, you know, that description's 30 seconds, but to try and do that was probably an hour. Just faffing around.
Well, that's when I commented, going for some reason. When I commented, it was me looking at the Terminator at the end and seeing how it matched with the music. But now that you did that, I may have choose a different soundtrack because you isolated it, and it just needed QE's character needed to end with the music properly. And I think you did it with that crunching sound.
Yeah, it didn't work, basically. If you kept the sound effect from the movie, it's got strings. They're subtle, but they're noticeable if you've got another song playing. It's jarring. So I had to get rid of all that. It's just one of them. You want to hear the sound effect, but you don't want to lose the music. And this is just for a bloody intro, right? Most people wouldn't care. They just slap it together in 10 minutes, and there you go. That's your intro. You know, instead of that, we had literally every member of Ballbusters discussing it for about an hour and a half. Videos being produced and sent back and forward with different cuts of music. A public vote, and now we're discussing it now after me staying up till 2 a.m, just trying to edit one sound effect in to get it with the tempo correctly.
Give it another 24 hours, you'll be in Parliament.
It's good fun, you know. It's one of those things that sort of it displays all of our passion for the subject matter. Yes, it's just an intro for a show, but we take it very seriously, and at least I do. I speak for myself, but I take it very seriously, and I want it to look professional as I am capable. Now, no, don't get me wrong, none of us are professional editors. You know, we're YouTubers, semi-professional at best. So none of it's going to be slick as ITV, but you still want it to be as good as you can produce. You know, you want it to be as high quality as you can get it. When it's going to be attached to potentially dozens and dozens of shows. So I think it's pretty important. It's worth the extra effort. It's worth getting everyone's opinion. Worth keeping the public, who are ultimately the most important in this equation, right? Making sure they're happy. So I don't know. I think it's worth it. I'm passionate about the subject. I want it to be good. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that was fun.
Also, another video that I trimmed out. DITRH was in Red Pill Philosophy's stream, and he explained that while he was on 1080 radio broadcast, he's basically got a caller come into the conversation and start describing Chicago's skyline in his journey towards the Earth being obviously and observably flat. And he paraphrases my slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a Chicago skyline from behind the reified edge of an Earth curve based on an hour and a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator to turn a skyline that we see as flat earthers into a skyline that's actually a mirage. Well, he paraphrased that on the radio live, and you're like, cool, that's ace. You know, he's doing it with Chicago, and you think that's perfect. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a clock, it could be an oil rig, it could be a lighthouse, it could be the Chicago skyline. They claim it's not there. What you see here is a mirage. It's bullshit. They're just explaining away why it doesn't match the model when you can clearly see it. And as flat earthers, you can just say Chicago skyline. There it is, I see it, it's there. Earth is obviously and observably flat. Whereas if you're a globe head, you've got to reify the horizon into the edge of a sphere, say that what you see isn't actually matching the model, and therefore turn what you see into a projection of something that isn't really there. It's just a load of crap, basically, and I'm glad that people have cottoned on to the fact that their model is what dictates what you do and don't see, when for a flat earther, our eyeballs dictate what we can and can't see, not a perspective hijacking curve calculator that assumes an R value. So I was really delighted with that, and Dearth gave him kudos as well. So shout out to Karen B. I put a link in the video to both of these channels, so go and subscribe today to Karen B on that video. It's called Chicago is Not a Mirage, Earth is Flat. And in the comments and info, I'll put a link to Karen B, who was the one who actually kind of recorded it and streamed it with the phone number so people could call in. So it may very well be the case that one of her viewers saw that, given that it was obviously a flatty. So, thank you very much to Karen for putting that out there. And then it was actually, as I say, Dearth that was on the broadcast. So Dearth did his usual exceptional job. Like always, there's little things that I could critique with Dearth, but I just don't want to. I'll use one, just because I think if he's listening, I'd hope he took this on board. So when he was describing, he didn't know, he said it could be the first or second law of thermodynamics. That bit's not relevant and I don't care. But what he said was you can't have differing pressures next to each other. Well, that's not necessarily true. You can have differing pressures, but you can't have gas pressure without a container. So the argument when you talk about differing pressures will always lead people onto the straw man of pressure gradients and an assertion about differing pressures under wings and hurricane, whatever. They'll go on to an example, but in all of those examples, they have gas pressure in the first place. So the question is, how do you have the gas pressure in the first place if you have nothing for it to press upon? Or, a better phraseology, how can you have gas pressure without a container? So the argument is about the open nature of Earth in a sphere form, in a vacuum. It's classed as an open system. And if it's an open system, i.e. no container, then the gas would fill the space. The available volume is what the gas would disperse into if there's nothing for it to press on and stop it dispersing. That's the second law of thermodynamics. The entropy would increase. Second law is just about entropy, the dispersion of energy, nearly did it again, into an available volume. So that is the second law, but the argument we should all be absolutely crystal clear on isn't about pressure differentials. It's about the lack of containment. Earth as a sphere, open system next to a vacuum, with gas not dispersing. That not dispersing is the violation of the natural law that is entropy. The entropy would increase, the gas would fill the space. So that's the only thing I'd say. But I know from JQ, who's one of the viewers of this show, that he's a mate of Dearth's, and he's got into back and forths about this subject with Dearth and debated it with him, and it's obviously rubbing off. So while I'm, to a minor degree correcting one small detail, I know for a fact that Dearth is discussing this with, I know he watches the show as well, but somebody who's I hope JQ doesn't mind me saying this, but what I'd consider a mega fan, he watches it as often as I do. He's there in the after show with me chatting away, saying, I watch more of this than I do of anything else. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I like my own show. I watch it every night. I don't care if people criticise me. I like watching my show. I think it's ace. But these things are rubbing off on people like Dearth, and clearly on people who are calling into these radio stations backing him up. So when I found that clip this morning, because Dearth had mentioned it but not actually trimmed it out himself as yet, I was so elated to just hear the guy paraphrase it so beautifully and eloquently and make his point to the radio guy, and it was met with no challenge, which should be the case. The radio guy was like, well, thank you very much. After him stating that you're brainwashed if you think it's a mirage, you can see it. So yeah, that was really good. Shout out to Karen B for broadcasting it, Dearth for being on the radio station and weaseling his way in there, however he did that, and to the guy called John who called in. Kudos to all of you. Check it out on Nathan Oakley 1980. It's called Chicago's Not a Mirage, the Earth is Flat.
Very good.
Did you hear Bob Nodell talking about scientific method and independent variables?
I didn't catch the first bit. Say that again.
Did you hear about Bob Nodell talking about scientific method and independent variables?
No, but that sounds promising. Tell me more.
Quantum Eraser spotted it somewhere. I don't know where he got it from, but I assume it's a recent clip. but Bob's talking about independent variables and how pseudoscience is basically a lot of the stuff that you hear on the pop science channels, like, you know, like Simon Dan and stuff like that. There was some particular segment that he was criticizing, saying that there was no independent variable, so it's pseudoscience. And I was like, oh right, so now we're beginning the message is getting through now, so let's keep this momentum going, and then point out when it's not science, because that is the skirm of the heliocentric narrative. It's all based around pseudoscience. None of it exists. It's all logic and theory and logic and reason, to quote Tim Osman. Well, that's not science. We need proof. We need scientific manipulation of the independent variable to prove a cause and effect relationship. It's that simple.
That's excellent. I mean, that pleases me greatly because, or however long it was, 12 months ago, when I had to critique Bob's claim that he had scientific validity when using the ring laser gyro, and then essentially changed his claim cause to ether rotation, I had to point out that that's pseudoscience. And it cost me dearly, I assure you. You know, I ended up with 47 consecutive ad hominem attacks from Bob, broadcast with me being a grocery delivery boy who doesn't know anything about science. 12 months later, having suffered all of those losses in revenue and subscribers and all the rest of it, the shit that I still get to this day in comment sections and in chat rooms, was all worth it. And I knew it would be. You know, I knew it was necessary, and I'd have to take it on the chin in the short term. You know, until now, the light at the end of the tunnel has definitely not been visible. But if you're listening to this, Bob Nodell, kudos. I am elated. That's made my day. Yep, we're in a battle with pseudoscience. So, yeah, once people appreciate on our side that we are not enemies of science, we're enemies of pseudoscience. The pretend claim that you have empiricism for your science when you don't is pseudoscience. So thank you, Anthony. That's made my day.
Would you like to hear the clip in question?
The what question?
Would you like to hear the clip in question?
Yeah, if you can play it.
I can. Bear with me one sec. I'm not sure which one I'll play through, but let's try it.
Cool.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Good morning, by the way. Good morning, anybody hear me?
Yeah, hello, Chocolate, and whoever's wanting to ask a question, yes, just give us a second to check that Anthony's sound comes through. We'll get the clip.
Yeah, I got you, Chocolate.
All right, just give me 60 seconds, guys.
You want to ask your question, guy in Discord?
Did you guys see Tim Osman's debate with Red's Rhetoric on the ISS not being real?
No.
When?
I'm not subscribed to him. Somehow I get his emails and I gotta watch it, but it was pretty bad because he was admitting to Red's Rhetoric that because he sees something in the sky that it's real.
When was this debate?
Hold on, you'd have to give us a bit more context. Please don't interrupt you, everyone else. Guy in Discord, what's your name, sorry?
My name's Matt.
Flatty Matty, cool. When he says he can see a light, who are you talking about? What's the light? What does he think he can see?
So basically, Reds in their debate, Reds presented his evidence that he could track the ISS in the sky, that he could zoom in on it, you know, when it transited the moon or the sun, and you know that they could make it out, and that he was able to calculate the speed and the distance that it was, and you know he's able to make all these calculations, you know, based off his observations, and therefore that proved that the ISS exists, you know, as they claim at NASA. And because Tim Osman, all he basically said was that, well, I can't prove that your footage is real or not. He says, but if your footage is real, then that means that the ISS does exist and that it does travel at 17,000 miles and it's at, you know, 225 kilometers, whatever it is that they claim, and saying that, oh, then it must be that way.
Okay, well, just before we go live, let's pick that apart. So observing something like Jupiter or the ISS, lights in the sky, you won't be able to calculate the speed unless you assume an R value in a spherical Earth, which is where you'll get your calculations for that speed. So that can be immediately ignored. They've based it on a presupposition. Secondly, the assertion that what NASA say that light in the sky is would be confirmed by pictures of the light in the sky from the ground is a false equivalence, because what they say a a light in the sky is with pictures and images on a TV screen isn't confirmed by confirming the light in the sky exists. That doesn't tell you that what they show you on a soundstage on high wires is what the light in the sky is. Those two things aren't confirmed by simply confirming a light in the sky. So if I give you a comparison, if I look at the light in the sky called Jupiter, and I say, Jupiter's a party planet, it's hollow, full of ooze and people spraying vodka inside the planet. That's what's inside Jupiter. And you go, well, how can I prove that? I go and look at the light in the sky called Jupiter. If you can prove you've got pictures of it, then that definitely means that it's a party planet with ooze and vodka being sprayed inside it, because I can show you the light. So no, showing that men are inside that light isn't confirmed by just seeing the light. Just proves you can see the light. I can see Jupiter and Mars. That doesn't prove one's a gas giant and the other's a rock. Just proves I can see those lights. You ready, Anthony? We've got two.
Yeah.
How long's your clip,
No,
Anthony?
How long's the clip? About 35 seconds.
You want to play it now?
Yeah.
Just
Why
check
do we have two sleeping warriors in the panel?
the one. Let's just check if your sound works first, please, Anthony.
For some reason, we've got two because for some reason it decided to kick me off. Right, one sec.
No, nothing. No audio. Sorry.
Okay, one sec. Why is it not outputting to that? What I'll do, start the show and I'll see if I can get this outputting properly. Ah, there we go. That's it.
Do you want to play it now and then I'll start the show?
Voice meter auxiliary output. That should be, shouldn't it? Ah, stereo. I'll put it on cable A. Yeah, it'll work. Cable A is this one. B1, B2. All right, so you should hear this now, okay?
No.
No, that's for some reason that's not coming through neither. Doesn't matter. Should I send it to you?
You can do if you send it me on your big box in Skype.
It's worth listening to.
Yeah, if there's a moment in the show, then if there's an appropriate moment, then I'll play it.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on social media. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by, let's get it up on screen, the one Sleeping Warrior, Righteous Force, Paul Hall, Flatsoid, Chocolate Sane, Arwin, and 10th Man in G+. Very good to have you one and all.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
And we're also joined by a whole bunch of people in Discord. Hopefully you're all off mute. If one of my moderators is on the case. If not, I'll fuddle around with it while I'm doing housekeeping. Hello, Discord.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from a riverside.
Not on a flat plane.
Oh, that crystal flat.
You got some great one-liners, the one. Say that again.
Not on a flat plane.
Any signs of curvature? Not on a flat plane. Yeah, effects of perspective only. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No.
No, only when I stand on my head.
Nope.
Not on the flat plane.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity, scientific evidence thereof.
Not familiar with that thing.
So which one? The supposed official narrative of the bending of space time, which they literally don't know what it is or how, or the nostalgic yet scientifically unconfirmed even by the original designer Newtonian gravity elaborated upon with dark matter and all kinds of extremities calculus wise? Which one?
It's a very interesting question. I think that question was put to Danny Faulkner by one sleeping warrior currently on the panel. So what did Dr. Danny Faulkner have to say? PhD astronomer, I believe.
Yeah, I've got a back and forth on Facebook at the minute on a group, and I'm getting the two admins of the group saying Danny didn't answer Nathan's question because it came after an insulting and rather embarrassing for him rant at Danny. He did not deserve an answer. And quite honestly, with the tone that you've set on your first post, I don't think that you do either. That's an admin. And then the next admin says, you'd do well to review some recent conversations about Nathan Thompson's rude behavior towards Danny Faulkner. We've also repeatedly covered the gas pressure thing. Briefly, how can you have a gas pressure at sea level, double the container, blah, blah, blah. And then he talks about the gradient a bit more. And I've said, let's just concentrate on answering the question. No personal attacks, just the science. The questions on the table are simple. How can Danny fail to mention Einstein in his book when talking about gravity? And given that Einstein is the current science and gravity is an effect of the bending of a conceptual medium, how can the Earth have gas pressure without a container? The admin can kick me if you want. It doesn't change the science. So I'm just waiting for a response.
I like how they say you don't deserve a response because you're rude. Oh, right. The rudeness level isn't really relevant when we're talking about a lie in the nature of reality that contravenes the second law of thermodynamics, and an incorrect 100-year out-of-date assertion in a book that claims to debunk gravity by saying that it's old and out of date and a force when it isn't. So Danny's wrong on multiple levels, saying that Nathan Thompson was too rude to get an answer. Apparently he never came across a question he couldn't refute, and now it's being put verbalised and in text on this forum, and apparently we're not worthy of an answer and we're too rude. Why not just rattle off the answer in a paragraph and just put us all to shame? Oh, that's because there isn't an answer, it's a violation of natural law. So telling us we're too rude is the best you can do.
Never ran across the question you couldn't answer, asterisk.
Ooh. Guys, I have a little puzzle for you. There's a guy in chat who makes a remark, and I wonder, it's a troll account, but I wonder if you can determine who could have said this. Okay, so Nathan Thompson is a pussy bitch, says in chat at Nathan Oakley, second law only applies to my closed system. Who could have said that?
Don't care.
Only applies to what?
It's a closed system. So apparently
Of a
because they've got an
closed
open
system.
system, it doesn't apply. Yeah, it applies equally to open or closed systems. It's a law of nature. If you believe that an open system, like a coffee cup, won't have the heat flow to the cold, that entropy won't increase because it's an open coffee cup, then you're moronic. Entropy applies. It's a natural law. Not only does it apply, it applies always.
Yeah, but Nathan, I don't think he
Can I
realizes
ask my question, Nathan?
the system anyway.
Sorry, Paul. Say that again, Paul. I didn't answer your question.
I said I was just going to ask the question. Where did we discover this law to begin with? I'd like to answer that question,
In nature.
please.
It's just a description of what happens always. In nature. To answer your question. What did you say, Flat Sword? Sorry.
I said maybe they don't know it, but the glove rhetoric is that Earth is a closed system anyway, even on their side.
They'd need it to be to have gas pressure. It isn't in the heliocentric rhetoric. That's the problem. That's why space is fake. And we can declare it quite openly and boldly in the face of people like PhD astronomer Dr. Danny Faulkner, because he stands in violation of a natural law when he claims Earth is in a vacuum with gas pressure not dispersing, in violation of natural law. So is there any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
I don't even know how.
Only when you put it in a container.
Yeah. How are you gonna escape the container in the first place? Don't think that's possible.
No, you can't have gas pressure without a container. What about distance to the sun? Has anybody got any evidence of that?
Absolutely no.
What about
I'm
the R
not too sure
value?
it is anywhere except for at an angular location in relation to the observer.
Well, the heliocentric fundies utilise the R value to presuppose distances and speeds of things like the ISS and the Sun and all of the planets. So you'd need an R value to calculate that. Is there any proof of the R value, the presupposition? Earth radius?
Well, any thought about it? I think it's presupposed.
Yeah, we know.
I got a question on that, Nathan. At one time, did they say the sun was 3 million miles away? And did they not at that time use the presupposed R value? But now, with that same presupposed R value, it's 93 million miles away? What's
It
going
works
on
the other way
there?
around. You get the presupposition of sphericity from Aristarchus, and then you have somebody taking that presupposition and utilising the celestial bodies with sticks and shadows or wells, depending on which version of the story you get, to calculate a radius with the presupposition that you're on a sphere to begin with. So it's the other way around.
The
No,
lack
you would-
of science in all that is just amazing.
Yeah, one man watches a shadow that he thinks is a shadow. That's what he calls it. He hasn't got any confirmation that it's a shadow, but he's going to assume it's a shadow caused by Earth between him and the sun, so that causes a shadow on the moon. Well, that's his claim of the cause of lunar eclipses, Aristarchus in this instance. Well, that claim was based on his assumption that Earth is between the moon and the sun as a sphere in an orbit. So he's got a whole string of presuppositions for his explanation for what he calls a shadow moving across the moon. Well, that presupposition then goes forward to get validity by way of celestial transits to give you an R value. The average movement of the sun being the thing that they presuppose is on the outside edge of a sphere to give you your equator. All of these presuppositions are all in place from moment one when they just presuppose that Earth is a sphere causing that shadow. That's the very first. That's like what do they call it when there's the point where you get the bomb? Anybody?
What? Nuclear fission?
When they drop a bomb, they say that's like the zone, the
drop zone.
Say again?
Oh.
The point of origin. I forgot what it's called. There's a term for it.
Ground zero?
Ground zero. That's the one.
Right.
That's ground zero, Aristarchus.
I don't know if you guys watched any of the conference, but Rob Skiba talked about this. This is on his presentation where they used a theodolite on their phone and calculated from two different locations on the Earth, and they both came up with the same number, that the moon is roughly 300 miles up, which I thought was interesting. And they get on, Gobers get on to us showing that we don't understand trigonometry. Well, here's Trig showing that the moon is not as far up as we think it is.
Oh,
or
really?
they think it is.
And how wide is the moon? Did they have that data before they did the trick?
I don't know. He didn't get into a whole lot of detail. He just used the theodolite, not the theodolite, but the app on your phone to calculate it with angles. So he didn't really say.
That's a big problem. I'm sorry, Bob. Did you say Rob or Bob?
Rob.
I'm sorry, Rob. So, Rob, unfortunately, if you've got a little LED light that's 5 centimeters in diameter and it's 500 meters away. And then you've got a really powerful halogen headlight from a car or motorbike, so it's just one, that's a couple of miles away. To your perception, they'll be the same size. So how are you going to work out which one's which?
I think it wasn't necessarily which one's which, but it's more of this determining that using trigonometry, if you're using trigonometry as math, using that, you come up with a distance of 300 miles high. That's all. That's the only point I'm making. Not what the moon is, or anything like that. That's all. That's the only point I'm making.
But wouldn't you need that? Wouldn't you need that? Wouldn't you need to know how big the thing you're looking at is first? This is the criticism we lay at. I can't let it just fly when we would use the exact same criticism of, admittedly with the presupposition of an R value inserted in there with the same exact thing. But how are you supposed to know if you don't know what it is or how big it is?
Well, I think Jaron made this point a long time ago when he did his scaling and variance video. That with math, you can just make an object in the distance with angular size. You can make it be whatever.
Well,
Exactly.
I get the point of angular size, but there is, you can determine the height of a pole by knowing the angle and the distance to the pole, and that's something you can do using trig. You don't have to know. You may not know the size of the light at the top of the pole, but you can at least determine how high the light is above the pole. That's the only thing I would say. Using angles and distances, you can figure that out. The distance between the two and angles.
Yeah, I don't dispute that. I'd still want to know what it was first, in terms of how you're triangulating something like the moon. If I've got a torch in my hand that I can project a light onto a surface, and you can triangulate that light, well, what does that prove? That the light is actually at that distance? Well, no, it's projecting from something on the ground, potentially. Now, not for 1 second suggesting that the moon is a projection from the ground, but I'm saying that's a potential that you don't know the answer to. There's a million things it could be or could not be that you don't know and can't discount when you make a measurement like that on the moon. So I'd want to know what it was. And, I appreciate that what Rob Skiba's doing is he's debunking their assertion when using an R value that it's the 200 plus 1,000 kilometers or miles or whatever they say it is away. Well, yes, that does serve to debunk that, because you can just point out that they're inserting the presupposition of R. It's the death of Red's rhetoric. Everything he does uses the presupposition of the R value. That's why I'll never come here. So yeah, it serves its purpose. Maybe I'm being overly critical.
Yeah, can I ask a question relating to this? Paul, aren't the globetards using triangulation, and they come up with a number of 240 or so thousand miles away, and then you're saying that Rob Skiba used triangulation, same method, and came up with 300 miles? Am I hearing that right?
It's just
Basically,
R.
yes.
It's only
Right,
R
that's
that's
what I'm
different.
saying.
It's just R. They insert the R value. The presupposition that Earth is spherical gives you a very, very distant light.
Right, but I'm just trying to see if this thing that Rob Skiba said he did with triangulation is the same thing they say they did. And if it's the same thing, how do you come up with two different numbers if math is not prejudice or bias?
R, I've just said. But you insert the presupposition of the R value into the exact same mathematics, and that adjustment gives you a very distant light, based on the presupposition that you're on a spherical surface.
So then Rob Skiba didn't presuppose the same R value?
Yeah, that's why it serves its purpose. That's why I've said I'm being overly critical, because it's going to serve that purpose beautifully. You don't have to insert a fundy globehead presupposition that you're on a sphere at the start of every example. That's begging the question. If you're trying to prove that the sun is a certain distance away, and you're orbiting the sun in an elliptical motion on a heliocentric model, then you don't start with the presupposition that you're orbiting the sun in a model and that you're on a sphere, and then go forward to make your measurement. In other words, insert R here. R value being Earth radius, the presupposition thereof.
Well, and even in this assumption in Rob's thing, he is presupposition, or I can't even say the word now. presume that the Earth is flat, and you put your equation in. So it's an assumption either way. So you got to either direction. You got to prove that it's flat or prove that it's round.
No, that's incorrect. No, that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's wrong. No.
Why is that?
The measurements are identical for both. The only difference between these two measurements is the insertion of an R value. There isn't an equivalent that we would have to substitute the R value for to say that it's a presupposition on our part. It's not. The only presupposition is removed when you remove the R value. Other than that, the maths are the same. So what you're saying, if you're saying we're also presupposing it, it's like, well, no, that's the baseline for their maths before they presuppose R. So what you're saying, they've got two presuppositions, we've only got one? Well, no, we just don't have any presupposition. We don't insert an R value.
Silly stork. R is for pseudoscience scientists.
Hey, Quantum Eraser, good to have you.
Morning.
So,
Where's Danny Faulkner when you need him?
Where's Danny Faulkner? We don't need him. Well, he's a useful person for highlighting the utilisation of 100+ year out-of-date rhetoric when you need to explain away why we have gas pressure without a container, even though entropy is not being defied by either of those two not actual forces called gravity. The most recent being an effect of the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time. Well, that's not going to hold gas pressure. And the minute, whatever Anthony describes it as a 50 millionth to 1 force of Newtonian, incorrectly labelled, actually Reverend John Michel Cavendish gravity, well, those aren't going to hold gas pressure. That's nonsense. He needs a force to weasel his way around it, so he's picked a 100-year-old one.
Can I just correct you there, Nathan? It's not Anthony's 50 million to 1. It's actually Jean-Michel Cavendish himself.
My bad. The exampled by Sleeping Warrior of Reverend John Michel's mathematical bullshittery when it comes to this out-of-date pseudoscience used by Dr. Danny Faulkner.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior, would you be willing to put that into the live stream? That piece of evidence?
Sure. The Jean-Michel Cavendish citation for the 50 million to 1.
Yes, please. That is exquisite.
Have you seen it before, or are you asking because you need to know where it is?
No, I've heard of it before plenty of times. I've never laid eyes on it personally. I'd be much appreciated.
You can post it. Somebody remind me of Random Atheist's comment, which is, if Earth is flat, where is the edge? I want to come to that after we round out housekeeping. So while we're on the subject of an astronomer, PhD, one of each, shout out to Quantum Eraser, is there any evidence in the entire history of the fields of astronomy, astrophysics, or cosmology of any viable hypothesis?
Nope.
No.
Michio Kaku said they don't work with the scientific method.
Chocolate's obviously got a lot of background noise. I was expecting him to parrot off the quote.
Well, in Discord, we didn't hear those.
I thought y'all probably heard it too many times.
Au contraire. Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, well, nobody in our field understands scientific method. We work by the seat of our pants with leaps of logic and guesswork. Michio Kaku, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. So we've been asking this question for the best part of a month now, and given that these are the priests of heliocentrism who declare quite frequently that science is right whether you like it or not, let's have some. We want a viable hypothesis from any of the fields of cosmology, astrophysics, or astronomy. That would include Dr. Danny Faulkner, PhD. Hey, Adam.
Afternoon, Nathan. You're right. Afternoon, everyone.
You got a lot of praise in the pre-show for your exceptionally good work.
for the epic.
Yeah, Adam.
The Goku remix.
Awesome. Ballbusters is getting a new intro thanks to the very hard work of Adam Meakin. So shout out to him. Check out Iron Realm Media.
Shout out to number 4.
Can I just add something on the
Number
Rob-
4, no way.
Yeah, number
Hold
2.
on. Look, this fun though this is. Go ahead, Adam.
It's just on the Rob schema bit with regards to the trigonometry. Now, you're not view. I don't think you're viewing from one point. You're viewing from multiple points, I assume, to get the trigonometry of distance. Now, the first thing is, even on a flat plane, you're assuming that the angle you measure is correct, is actually relative. It's not disturbed or in any way altered by the atmosphere. So there's all those standard faults. But what I wanted to say, just in terms of the inserting of an R into this, it is a massive corruption, because as far as I can see, when we're on a flat plane and we take those readings, we are making those assumptions that the angles are correct to calculate the distance. But we do take those angles. On the equivalent ball version, you obviously measure the angles the same, but because you're supposedly on a curving surface, what you have to do the calculation is, well, the simplest way is to adjust the angles. And that's what puts it at distance. So even in their model, you don't actually use those angles. The easiest way is to change the angles as if to represent what that angle would be based on a ball. So they pervert one of the angles to give the distance based on the R. Is how it's done.
There's a very good video on this by Smokescreen Design, and the title of the video is called "Was Jeranism Wrong? Distance to the Sun or Distance to the Moon?" I forget which. It's not relevant. But he takes apart a very concise video by Red Rhetoric where he details exactly that. The changing of the angles based on the assumption of an R value. So he fudges them, and he points out where that happens. So check it out, Smokescreen Design. This is probably a 5-year-old video. It's a very, very old video. It's one of the first things I came across when watching. I don't think it was even called Globebusters back in those days. It was on Jeranism's channel, and he had the ISS watch, and it might have been called Globebusters, but certainly him, his wife, Smokescreen Design, and a few other people were the team back then. And round about that time, as I say, Smokescreen brought out a sort of debunking video to a debunking of Jeran done by Red Rhetoric in regards to this insertion of the R value when measuring the distance to a celestial body and fudging the angles as just detailed by the Adam Meakin. In R you trust, Radius Dominus, Gravitus Spiritus Sanctus, go in peace, fundamentalist religious zealots.
Arwin.
Arwin. Shout out
All
to
right, Nathan.
the Mega Twerky for perspective will also alter the angles. Theo Mega Worty, thank you very much indeed for your super chat. Really appreciate your support. Just got one last question. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so the Random Atheist, or whatever he was called, had a comment, but before I get to it, is there anyone wants to get in there? And then I'm going to talk about the edge question we were asked.
Yeah, just before we do, I have got a response back from Danny Faulkner about why he didn't mention Einstein in his book. Get this, he says, I already answered the question of why I didn't mention Einstein in the book in the discussion of page 169 to 179. And then his answer in that occasion was because it wasn't relevant. So I then consequently asked him, how did you dismiss it? On what science have you dismissed Einstein? And then he said, however, if you were to consult the index of my book, you'll find that I did discuss Einstein's work where it was relevant on pages 2017 to 2019. I cannot believe this silly pseudo-objection to what I wrote is making its rounds amongst flat earthers. Apparently you folks have no idea what you're talking about, or else a desperate attempt to avoid the cold, hard logic that I present there and conclude on pages 1 whatever. You then want to blend that with having gas pressure without a container. The two have nothing to do with each other. Flat earthers seem to have this thing about a vacuum, I suppose being defined as a region that is totally empty and has absolutely zero pressure, magically sucking everything up around it. There are at least two problems with this. First, a vacuum so defined doesn't exist anywhere. Better way to define a vacuum is a region of lower pressure. Second, vacuums don't suck. It's the existence of a higher pressure elsewhere that drives fluid from higher pressure to lower pressure. This is caused by a force that is equal to the difference in the pressure times the cross-sectional area between the two regions. So I said, Danny Faulkner, we are live right now. Click the link above and join. Let's hear you justify your words in front of an audience. I respectfully challenge you. You will not be bullied. And he's literally just responded. Let me just read his response. His response is, bear with me, I'm just scrolling down to the bottom. It's so hard on Facebook. He says, I am not interested. I decide when, where, and how I discuss Flat Earth. I'm not going on to an internet show that I know nothing about, a place where I have absolutely no control over the direction of the discussion, the rules of discussion, and contents afterwards. What one word should I send back to him? Coward?
Yeah.
Yeah, coward.
Also, he makes a point that we would agree with. He's saying that the Newtonian or Einsteinian gravitational bullshit has nothing to do with entropy. Well, he's right.
Well, and
Yeah,
I would tell him too. I would tell him too, Anthony, that look, it says you got a flat earther's critique in your book. You know, if you're not up to criticism of a flat earther on your book, then yeah, you definitely are a coward.
Well,
because you know,
I'd ask him, Tony. So just to clarify, then, mate. So you're saying it's not that you can't refute; it's that you won't refute.
Yeah, I'm on
See,
it.
but why be nervous? I thought science would have your back, right? Science should have your back if everything you're saying is validated by science. Why are you scared to go anywhere or answer any question by anybody?
I wouldn't.
Mr.
I would
PhD.
I would rephrase the question. Not rephrase. Repeat the question. So, as a reply, point out that as a closing remark, please can you give me a concise answer to this question? How can you have gas pressure without a container? He's clearly said he's not coming, so this is your last opportunity to round out and try and get a concise answer. He's given you quite a lot of word salad in a conversational exchange. That's the main question. Re-ask it. Just as a closing question. Just so you can summarise your answer, please, Doctor. How can you have gas pressure without a container? Don't mention that it's a violation of natural law. Just ask him the question. That would be my advice. Shout out to Dave Rakier Gafford. I'm going to read this off my faraway screen if I butcher it. If you speak the truth, hold on one sec. If you speak the truth, you can go anywhere and speak to anyone at any time. Rakier life. Thank you very much for the super chat, Dave Rakier Gafford.
See,
Anthony,
that's exactly what I
Nathan.
just said, Rocky. Exactly.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, he's just gonna say gravity, right? And
No,
people believe this stuff.
no. I will get to you, Paul. No, he won't. He's already said it's got nothing to do. He's correct. He's saying no, Newtonian or Einstein. It's got nothing to do with the subject. Well, that's been something that QE's been saying for ages. No, it doesn't. He's right. You know, you're not overcoming entropy with gravity. Go ahead, Paul.
I was going to say, Anthony, once you share your screen, if you're getting this live feed, to share it so we can not just your words, but we can actually see it if it's possible.
Yeah, I can do that. Share screen.
I would say, Anthony, don't say coward at all, because you have a back and forth open discussion. This can go on for a while. Ask the questions succinctly, like Nathan said.
The problem is on Facebook is everyone's jumping on the thread, and because they're jumping on it, it's moving that fast. I can't now keep up with it.
Okay, never mind then.
Somebody need to doctor.
I posted that smokescreen design video in this Hangout, in Master B's, and in Discord live stream.
And to say this, the only point I was making with that video, with what Rob did, was just to say that even if you use trigonometry, it doesn't match what the Globers were saying. That was not the ultimate point.
Hello? I've just seen that, John. That's exactly what I was talking about, how they subvert the angles once they apply it onto a curved surface.
Precisely.
Okay, so if
Nice
you're watching
start.
this on Nathan Oakley 1980, I've just literally posted, it's just rolling by now, the link to Smokescreen Designs video. So if you want to go and check it out, thank you very much for digging that out, Quantum Eraser. That was quick. Explain to me where the word suck comes from. I'll give you a hint. It's describing the action of differential pressure. Yes, vacuums suck. Theo Megaworty. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Colloquially, there's nothing wrong with saying that the vacuum is going to suck the gas from surrounding the vacuum upon having an opening. Yeah, that would be a reasonable way to describe it. However, what's actually happening is the gas is pressing on the walls of the vacuum, if you've got a vacuum chamber example, and when you open a little valve, the gas pressure is pushing its way into the vacuum. That's just his straw man. I am in absolutely no doubt, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, that at no stage whatsoever did Anthony use the word suck. It's just a straw man he's building up to make it seem like Anthony's declaring something incorrectly about how a vacuum operates when it's the gas pressure filling the volume. We state it as such. The gas would fill the space, not the vacuum would suck the gas. None of us say that. It's just a straw man.
But he recognises that point, Nathan, because he clearly defines where the driving force is. It's from the entropy from the high to low, which he then admits Earth has, and then still says, yeah, but there's a vacuum next to it. So he's in that he has to have some form of containment, and the only thing he in his model falls back onto is the thing that he says is irrelevant, which is gravity.
Exactly. A little bit of word salad, a little bit of a dance. Declare the truth. Entropy is not being overcome by either of these two fictional forces. So we're back to the original question. That's why I said rephrase it. How can you have gas pressure without a container then?
But to make it even more irrelevant, he reverts back to the version of gravity that's even more irrelevant than the other version. So what the hell? It's like it's a joke, man.
If I heard the first answer that Sleeping Warrior gave, he was saying that space is not a complete vacuum. So is it gravity or is it that space is not a complete vacuum? Which one is it? You can't say both.
It's like they have this problem with calling it a vacuum, right? But NASA, who sends things up there supposedly to a second law of thermodynamics violation, calls it a vacuum themselves. So, Mr. PhD, I don't know. Have you been up there? Can you validate that it's not a vacuum?
Well,
as opposed to being a vacuum like NASA calls it, because they would know better than you, right? They send stuff up there. So this word nonsense. What's up, brother? This word nonsense where he's just trying to control how people speak is like it's just bullshit. Go ahead, Tim.
No, it's just gonna piggyback on you with some numbers. Now, the official number is 10 to the minus 17 torr, right?
That's interstellar space.
All right. So what is it between the Earth's atmosphere and outer space?
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Danny Faulkner says, Anthony Riley, gravity is a force. This is another silly pseudo objection.
Wow.
If you consult almost any physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces, with gravity being one of them. And I've just said gravity is not a force. Einstein said so. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson knows it's not a force. Where is your science, Danny?
Hey, pull up Wikipedia. Hold on a second. Pull up Wikipedia right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
And go to the standard model.
What, the phrase standard model?
Yes.
Hang on, I want to get this screenshot of you. Hang on. I'm trying to get one of them and just get mauled.
He literally typed out it's a force. Too good, man.
So everyone hold on. I just want to cue in Sleeping Warrior to make their points, get their stuff on screen. So if you can just let them do it.
Standard model of physics. 1 second. Let me just put the standard model in. Let me see if it pulls it up.
While you're doing that, I will read out the last super chat from Theo again. Thank you very much for the super chat. It says, the vacuums don't suck argument is for the feeble-minded in order to distract them from the argument proper. Vacuums suck. They are the only thing that do. Thank you very much for the super chat, Theo. Really appreciate your support.
The standard to put in the standard
some
model of
ballers
physics into their alma mater wiki. The standard model of particle physics is a theory describing 3 of the 4 known fundamental forces: the electromagnetic, weak and strong interactions, and not including the gravitational force. He's a clown.
So
he's also a psychopath.
Psychopath?
That's convenient. That's conveniently in there.
So has the pride got the better of him because he's responding and digging his own grave? He should have shut up.
Exactly.
Trying to get him to join. Come on, Danny. Oops.
Is there 9 or 10 people on this panel?
Somebody taking a pen and writing down his name on the toe tag?
Shout out to Nick, Nicholas and Larry. Go on mute. Shout out retracted. Rakia life. Shout out for the super chat, Dave Rakia Gafford.
The problem is on Facebook,
On
everyone
a
jumps
side
on it
note.
when there's something contentious. They just love it and they jump on it, and you just can't keep up with it.
That's no bad thing. So he's seeing that lots of people are reading this and paying attention to it, even if it's only a perception of lots of people, because a few people are making lots of comments. It's got the better of him. And QE's right every time. Just let them flap. Just let them open their mouth, or in this case type, and they'll expose themselves. And there he is.
Anthony.
We said it yesterday, we called it. He needs a force. That's why he's using the old rhetoric, and there he's declared it. Thank you to whoever's squealing their mic on Discord while I'm saying that. I'll just repeat that. We called it yesterday. He needs a force. Where's he getting one from? 100-year out-of-date rhetoric. That's where he's getting one from. He's made it plain. Force. No, doctor. Wrong. You are mistaken. Is it on screen, Anthony, if I share you again?
Yeah, I should be screen sharing, right?
Yeah? And just whoever's...
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks for that. Yeah, try and keep yourself on mute. And just find the bit where he digs his own grave and just highlight it, Anthony.
Yeah, it should be here. Danny Faulkner. No, it must be below this. Come on, Danny Faulkner. Trouble is, there's multiple there we go. Danny Faulkner. Gravity is a force. This is another silly pseudo objection that flat earthers are endlessly repeating now. If you consult almost any physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces. Usually it says 3, doesn't it? With gravity being one of them. Right, John, what were you saying? Standard model?
Yeah,
yes.
Standard model of physics, first sentence.
What's cool about this?
Hold on,
Anthony,
10th.
Yeah, I'm going to have this.
Echo.
Thank you. Can you just read out what you had highlighted a second ago, Anthony?
The standard model. You mean the gravity is a force?
I just need you to conclude the bloody point rather than taking your screenshots, if you don't mind.
I've already concluded it. You missed it, maybe.
Oh, right. We're summarising it. Oh, my God. So you're not going to read out the damaging, defying point that completely shits in his point?
I am.
You're not going to read that because you've already read it.
Gravity is a force. This is another silly pseudo objection that flat earthers are endlessly repeating. If you consult almost any physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces, with gravity being one of them. That's, I'm going to respond to this, obviously.
Yeah, I need you to read out the rebuttal, Anthony. The bit that you've just searched for that defies that.
Oh, well, it's just this.
Just read it, for God's sake. I'm starting to lose my shit with you, Anthony. This is the least concise debunking of him you could possibly have. You've read his claim twice and refused to read the debunking. I can't believe what's happening. I just need you to concisely read out his bullshit claim and then read out what it says in Wiki that defies it. That's it.
Or the standard model.
Do you want me to read it again, or do you want me to just read the second bit?
Now I'm nice
Gravity
and
is
calm.
most accurately described by general relativity, which describes gravity not as a force, but as a consequence of the curvature of space-time.
Okay. Now read the standard model debunking his claim of the 4 fundamental forces.
I'm going to do it right now. I want to post it so he sees it, though. Bear with me.
You're
Times of the
useless. You're
essence here,
absolutely
Wallis.
useless. So what we need, Anthony, is a soundbite of you reading his bullshit claim and then debunking it in the next sentence, rather than this crap where you're cutting it on a live show. I mean, God, do you not want the audience to hear a consistent debunking of the thing you've been arguing about him for 3 days about? I just can't believe what's happening.
Okay, let me do it again. Get ready for your soundbite, everybody else. Shut up and I'll do it again, okay? Right, so, I'm trying to find his comment now. Danny Faulkner, gravity is a force. This is another silly pseudo-objection that flat earthers are endlessly repeating now. If you consult almost any physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces, with gravity being one of them. The rebuttal obviously is from, you can just cite Wikipedia on this. Go to Wikipedia, type in gravity. Gravity is most accurately described by the general theory of relativity proposed by Einstein in 1915, which describes gravity not as a force, but as a consequence of the curvature of space-time caused by the uneven distribution of mass.
Is that it?
Woohoo!
Yeah, that's what he wanted.
Oh my God.
Yes.
He didn't. What's the issue now? What's up, QE? What's wrong?
Failed to state the standard model and the 4 fundamental forces. I got a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Chicken shit outfit.
Secure that shit.
I'm on
Right. QE.
Guys, take it easy on Anthony. He's excited because he's getting a response from this clown. So that's what it is.
At least I'm getting to him, though. I've been looking for him for days. Now I
you
know
do
where
it,
he
QE?
loiters.
Can you
See,
do
I
it?
told you.
Just can you do it?
I wish I could, but his screen's popping up, going down, popping up, going down. I can't see what Danny wrote. I would do it if he puts it up on the screen and leaves it there. And then I'll just fucking do it.
Tony's too excited. He can't stop scrolling.
Anthony, can you make it a bit larger, please?
That's what she said.
4 more hours.
I know that's what she said. Thanks.
Okay. So
If you consult almost any physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces, with gravity being one of them. From their alma mater wiki, the standard model of particle physics is a theory describing 3 of the 4 known fundamental forces: the electromagnetic, the weak, strong interactions, and not NOT, including the gravitational force in the universe. Thanks.
Yep.
awesome.
Outstanding.
Rest in peace, Danny Faulkner.
Yep.
Danny Faulkner, falling flat. Dead.
It's just wrong. He's incorrect.
And that's bad too. Like he just made that mistake like 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago.
I gotta drop, guys. I need to go. I'll catch you guys in a bit.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Ladies, guys.
Shout out to Dave Rakia Gafford, says, God is truth, Bible has inspired word. God is creator, Jesus Christ is Lord and Saviour. Thank you very much for the super chat, Dave Rakia Gafford.
If I have to quote Nathan Thompson, Danny Faulkner, PhD astronomer, profiting from the lies.
Yeah, that was kind of, I know he's gone now, but Anthony and Babs reasserted the same point in that regard. He's not interested in being challenged, he just wants to be able to spew his rhetoric, smear the flat earthers, and have a happy day, sell a few books. Well, pride's got the better of him in this instance because he's just declared incorrectly so that gravity is a force. Well, he needs it to be. We called it yesterday. That's precisely why he's doing what he's doing in regards to Reverend John Michel / Cavendish gravity, falsely known as Newtonian gravity, in substitution of the current bullshittery, which is Einsteinian pseudo-Ramonian force space being bent to give rise to a not actual force called gravity. So he's parroting the wrong pseudoscience.
But come on now, Nathan.
Maybe he should have an interview with George Musser and maybe they could square it off.
Exactly. I just wanted to mention that. Like, yeah, okay, gravity may not actually be a force, but at least he's been given the green light. He's allowed to think that it is a force. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Can somebody ask George Musa what he thinks of Danny's comment?
Maybe fight the flat earth for.
It never ends.
So which is it, guys? Is it force, not a force? Like, what's going on with your story, your narrative here? Mr. PhD says it is a force. Jordan says it's not a force. I mean, what's going on?
The problem is he's used
Well,
to
they don't know
arguing.
what it is, but until that time, they can think of it as a force.
No, they know what it is. They know what they're going to parrot. It just depends on the circumstances. And back in 2016, he would have got away with his flip-flopping between these two different gravities. You know, it's one of the early QE lessons I got. When they speak about gravity, which one? And then here's how you pummel both of them. Well, back in the day, I didn't know that. When they start talking about gravity and parroting off Newtonian forces, if you don't know any different, you're just going to get bamboozled. Now, most people would allow him to get away with that and wouldn't have a response. They wouldn't know how to debunk Cavendish gravity. They wouldn't be able to explain that the experiment has no validity. They wouldn't be able to challenge him on the fact that it's 100-year out-of-date rhetoric that doesn't match up with the not actual force of gravity currently declared in Einsteinian pseudo-Ramonian force space. Now we do. And what do you know? He's getting pummeled. Gravity's not a force, Doctor. What kind of buffoon are you? Who accredited you? You don't know what gravity is, my friend. You claim you can debunk flat earthers. No, we're having to point out where you don't understand your own bloody narrative.
I mean, it says that in Wiki. He could have done an easy Wiki search and they would have told him gravity's not a force. So I don't know. Maybe a little more research, Doctor?
So shout out to Awaken Narrative.
Why aren't there any...
Sorry, just one sec. Shout out to Awaken Narrative. It says, support the show. It's scientifically destroying the whirling, twirling, spinning ball lie daily. Thank you very much. He also says, thank you for the super chat. Again, Awaken Narrative. Nathan, you missed my super chat. Technically not true now. Ha ha ha. No, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate your support.
Shout out to Awaken Narrative.
We shouldn't be the ones to point out to a PhD astronomer where he doesn't understand the nonsense he's parroting and where it's out of date and why he's wrong and how it's not a force, as declared to the masses by the actual parroting pseudoscience priests like deGrasse Tyson. Now, he's not going on TV with the wrong rhetoric. You're just mistaken, Doctor. You need to learn how your rhetoric works before challenging clearly more educated, understanding people in this subject matter. That would be us, the flat earthers, who are crapping all over your incorrect assertions right now.
Right. Hey, and if he needs more hints from his priests, then watch the Joe Rogan interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He'll explain to you exactly
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. I was just gonna say that. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, in his interview just maybe a month ago, Neil deGrasse Tyson was very adamant that gravity is the bending of space time. I mean, he said that numerous times, right? Never said anything about a force. So again, right. So where's the consistency in this narrative? Which is it, guys? Oh, it's neither. Because you don't have any scientific validity for any of them. So there you go.
Because it's a freaking concept. It doesn't exist.
Because it's not real.
I thought that was the the recording.
No, that was actually me saying that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just to
real.
just to round out
Exactly
this.
like recording.
Sorry, just to round out this this particular show. So there was a comment earlier on in the show where someone was asking us, the flat earthers, where is the curve? So I don't know if whoever's chatting in G+, if you can just pop yourself on mute, you're causing feedback. So asking us flat earthers, where is our curve? So before I demolish this question, I want to ask the people on the panel, or in Discord for that matter, if you want to speak as a flatty, or misrepresent us as a globehead, I don't care either way. Where our edge is, what's our edge, what is he asking about, what would you answer that with, etc, etc. Whoever wants to go.
What edge?
What edge? I heard twice. Cool. What edge? Yeah, I don't declare an edge yet. Any other answers?
Are you saying there is an edge?
No, that's the last two answers. So no, we say what edge. We are not declaring any edge. So is there anything beyond that? Or is that's the right answer? I've not made a claim about any edge. What you want about would be the direct answer to his question, but it comes with a supplementary, of course. But is there anything else before I give that supplementary?
Who told you there is an edge?
Yeah, who you using a stereotyping fallacy to give us that nonsense? Oh, would it be the Flat Earth Society by any chance?
Exactly.
An edge of what?
I want to make my point though, hold on. So we are charged with having an edge by the controlled opposition narrative that's known as the Flat Earth Society. This was discussed yesterday in terms of their assertions that you have a space pizza, i.e. flat Earth disk flying through space. That was what we covered yesterday. In this instance, with an edge. So we are charged by the chat, by people like Random Atheist, for our edge, which we don't make any claims about. Which is fascinating because it actually is a projection of their weakest assertion in regards to globe Earth evidence. Now on screen now we have the horizon, accurately described as an arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground, a not actual location. Now that position is reified into the edge of a fundamentalist globetard religious zealot's sphere belief. Now it's not the edge of a sphere, it's an arbitrary location where the sky appears to meet the ground, a position you can't travel to. It will move as you move. It's not something you can measure to give you dip, to calculate your sphere, and it's not something that's going to obscure something because it's a physical obstruction, i.e. edge of a globe believer's model reified into existence when using begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculations to turn that arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground into the edge of your globehead zealot sphere belief. We don't have an edge. On screen now is your reification of a heliocentric belief into the arbitrary position where the sky seems to meet the ground and labelled the edge of your sphere. So we don't have an edge, in conclusion. You, as globetard zealots, absolutely have an edge. It's reified into existence by way of begging the question, proof of nothing perspective, hijacking curve calculations, and an arbitrary position called the horizon turned into the leading edge of a sphere belief. Thank you. Hope that answers your question, atheist globetard. Got about a minute if anyone wants to add anything to the live show. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley.
Yeah, I just want to say that Earth is obviously and observably flat, and space is fake.
Any more for any more?
You got a super chat.
Ooh. Shout out the last super chatter, and then we'll probably round out. Have a little look. Shout out to Retro Bill. I freaking love this show. Worth every penny. And he's given me $20. Thank you very much indeed for the Super Chat, Retro Brill. I really do appreciate your support. And with that, again, I will say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you again to all of you who smashed the Super Chat and liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of today's Discord and G Plus panel for making this show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on the premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Don't move anybody to the after show as yet. There'll be a second live show.
All right, we have 8 Globers in here. 8. If any of them would like to share their pain, I'm all ears.
One housekeeping question for each one.
Do you know what the names are?
Yes. Baz Krish, M1.
That's all right, one at a time, that'll do. Baz Krish, can you hear us?
Yep.
Can you hear us?
Hey, Fundy.
Don't scare him. Or her.
Time for Silence of the Lambs.
Yep, I don't mind. We'll do this. This will be our after show, just pointing out.
Great.
They don't respond because they can't.
Next one is M1. M1, come in, M1. Globe Earth to M1, over.
Lure him in, Globert. The silence of the PhDs.
Come in, this is a Globe Earth SOS. Come in.
Houston, we have a problem.
Lost 2, this is lost 1. Are you lost 3 over?
Oh, am I on?
You are?
I think we got him.
Who was that? Educated Numpty or?
All right, no, I'm just having this conversation with a guy on here, Flatzoid. I've asked him to show me the container for 2 weather systems, a high pressure and a low pressure, and he can't answer the question.
You've asked him to show what, sorry?
The container for 2 pressure systems, and he can't show me.
That's our question. To have gas pressure in the first instance, you've got to have a container.
A container?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I've... Right at this moment, I'm sitting in a low pressure system.
Mm-hmm.
Right next door is a high pressure system. Where's the container between the 2 of them?
Oh, you're asking us to show you where the entirety of the Earth has a container. I haven't seen that. I don't know how to describe the sky. I've not examined the sky.
No.
But it's the necessary antecedent to have gas pressure. So by virtue of having gas pressure, you know that the necessary antecedent for that gas pressure is in play, which would be a container. Not being able to show it you doesn't mean it's not there.
No, I'm sitting in a low pressure system at the moment. Right next door is a high pressure system, pushing the low pressure system over the country.
The pressure to begin with.
That's separating the 2 of them.
Yes, I heard the first time, and
Where
we're saying.
did you get the pressure, gas pressure to begin with?
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking where's the container.
That's what we're asking.
That's what I started off by saying. That's our question, because according to Globe rhetoric, not only is there no container to show us for the gas pressure for your example to take place in the first instance with high and low pressure, well, in your system there wouldn't be any gas. It would fill the available volume, and there wouldn't be any way of having those 2 differences. But to have your example exist in the first place, there must be a container. Now you're saying, well, I can't see it. Well, neither can I. It doesn't matter. It's an antecedent, the necessary antecedent for the gas pressure to make your example. So we're asking, how can you have that if you claim the sky is a vacuum? Because the gas would fill the space.
So you must have a container between 2 pressure systems, correct?
No. To have gas pressure, not your straw man. To have the gas pressure in the first place. To then have your two different pressure systems. So first you must have gas pressure. That would require a container. Then you have your gas pressure differentials. You don't have gas pressure differentials without first having gas pressure. You must have gas pressure first. And how can you have gas pressure first? If the sky is a vacuum, the gas would fill the space.
But you can't have a gradient within a sealed container.
Yeah, you
Pascal's
can.
law.
Hillbilly Blue Balls has demonstrated it.
God.
Yeah, you can.
Are you that dumb? Listen to this question. How do you have gas pressure without a container? Don't say your next statement out of your mouth is not gas pressure gradients. That's delta X. We're looking for the existence of X, not delta X, X. Can you have... I'm done.
So I'll just debunk his claim in terms of
So,
you can't.
you don't agree there's a pressure gradient then?
I was just about to address it.
Oh my God!
So I've already addressed this 3 times and pointed out that to have a pressure gradient, you first must have gas pressure. That comes first. Do you accept that? Because you've ignored it and just reasserted your question.
No, I'm just asking. You can't have a pressure gradient within a sealed container.
Okay. So let's say for the sake of argument, I make a tube, and the tube is a mile high. And inside the tube, I've got a kettle. And I set the kettle such that it continues to boil after it's finished. It doesn't turn the kettle off. Now, inside that tube, yeah, you've got all the way running up the side of it, little holes that you can take out to push your arm through. You with me so far in my example with a very long tube and a kettle at the bottom of it?
That's not a sealed container.
I can make it sealed if you want. I'm just saying that at periodic points you can unseal it to stick your arm in.
Well, therefore, it's not a sealed container then. If you have
It is until you put
can
your
actually
arm
open
in. It's not conducive to my example, so you just seem to want to defy the example before it's made. So you don't want to
No,
listen
carry
to
on.
my hypothetical example. You're just not interested because in my hypothetical example of anything, you're saying it's not sealed, even though I'm saying it is. So you just don't want the example,
Carry on.
right? Can I finish the example?
Yeah, carry on.
So, inside this container, the kettle's boiling. If you put your arm in at the bottom, do you think you'll get burnt if you're putting your arm directly above the valve of the kettle?
Well, I would say yes, but then again, I would have unsealed the container.
Yeah, that's not relevant. So, you
Well,
put your arm
yes,
through
yes,
the
it-
container at the bottom, and it gets burnt because of the high concentration of heated gas particles right at the bottom near the spout of the kettle. So you get burnt. So then you climb up to the top of this mile-long tube, pull out the top bung, and stick your arm in again. Do you think the concentration of the gas is going to be higher, lower, or the same as when you put your arm in at the bottom?
But by me opening the container, that's an open system. That's not a closed
Not
system.
relevant to the example.
Yes, it is, because you're actually letting the pressure out.
Sorry, the pressure that's in there at the okay, no worries. You're going to sit inside this sealed container. No worries. I'll just change the example because of your buffoonery objection. So you're now inside the container. It's 3 meters wide and a mile tall. You with me? It's got a ladder running on the inside and is completely sealed. Okay, mate? With me now?
Yep.
You're inside a sealed pipe. Okay? Just need a yes. Yes, I understand now that my objection's just been shit all over and I'll continue with my example, which you haven't answered yet. So same thing. You put your arm over the kettle and you get burnt. You climb to the top of the pipe. Do you get burnt there? Or is the less, i.e. it's gradiated inside the pipe? You utter fuckwit. Yo! So you can have a gas pressure gradient in a fucking container then. Shit for brains. Now that we've addressed that utter shite that you clearly didn't understand, simple basic principles of gas dispersion, yeah, we'll get on to how we can have pressure in the first place. The ability to boil a kettle in gas pressure in the pipe prior to being sealed. We had gas. Now without the container, there can be no pressure. So how the hell do we have gas pressure if the sky is a vacuum, given that the gas would want to fill the available volume?
Can I speak now?
Well, are you going to acknowledge that your crazy, nonsense, incorrect assertion that you can't have a gas pressure gradient in a container was wrong and a demonstration of your stupidity? I'd like you to actually acknowledge the complete shit you've spouted and how I've unpacked it, rather than object about whether or not my pipe example's sealed, which is all you've done so far. So you're going to acknowledge your horse shit that was totally wrong when you asked for permission to speak? Yeah, permission to acknowledge how fucking wrong you were. Go!
Right, if you have that kettle boiling for a certain amount of time, the heat will increase slowly, but it'll be equal pressure all over the sides of the container, so therefore it'll be an equal pressure from ground up. Correct?
Oh, really?
Pascal's
So
law.
you believe that you'll burn yourself when you climb to the top of a mile-high pipe when the kettle's boiling at the bottom of it? You think it'll be equal? You're a fucking idiot. You've just explained that no, you wouldn't get burnt. I'm talking,
Pascal's
shithead.
law.
Excuse me, I'm in the middle of debunking your stupid shit that you've asserted for the second time. Don't talk through me. You've already conceded that when you climb up to the top of that pipe, you've got less of the gas up there. So it's gradiated. Might be temporarily gradiated, but it's absolutely gradiated, is it not?
Excuse me, did you say temporarily gradiated?
Yeah, temporarily gradiated. Sorry, did I say permanently fixed gradient in our atmosphere for your fuckwittery example? Sorry, no, we have a dynamic system here on Earth. This is not analogous to Earth. It's just pointing out that when you declare you cannot have a gas pressure gradient in a container, you're fucking wrong! You stupid shit! You're gonna concede now, fuckwit! Get on with it! Concede so we can get on to our question and off your stupid straw man that you're wrong about. How long's it gonna take?
I'm not wrong.
You can have a gradient in a container.
You are wrong.
You have a gradient when you climb up to the top and don't get burnt. Higher concentration at the bottom than at the top. That's a gradient! Are you an idiot?
If you left that kettle running for any certain amount of time, then the pressure will equalise throughout the whole system.
Oh, so you'll get burnt at the top then? So you climb to the top and you're getting burnt there, are you?
The temperature will be the same, top and bottom.
Wrong! You're a stupid idiot. If you think that when boiling a kettle you climb to the top of a mile-high pipe and experience the same effect, you're wrong! You're stupid!
So why is
You're
So what
stupid!
is Pascal's law
Look, it's the
saying?
end of your
The pressure
time.
will be equal
You
over
can't concede.
all the sides.
Right, you're stupid, dickhead. You're just thick. Now, either you concede your stupidity, which is temporarily or otherwise, at some stage in this example, there's a fucking gradient! Now you're going to
So
deny
you're
that
trying to
that's
prove-
possible
prove this
and
is
talk
Pascal's
through
law,
me the whole fucking time I point it out. You're wrong. It doesn't matter if it's temporary or otherwise. Your declaration that that can't happen is wrong. How long's this going to take, you stupid shit?
Can I talk now?
You can concede that your declaration that you can't have a gradient in a container is wrong, because it is wrong.
So Pascal's law's wrong then?
Sorry, you can have a gas pressure gradient in a container. That's a fact. You're wrong.
Because as soon as you apply one...
You first have to have a gradient before you can have a flipping right through.
And
Dude,
Pascal's
if
law
you
has
have-
nothing to do with that.
Dude, you can have a gradient in a container. You've declared otherwise. You're wrong. How long's this going to take with you dancing around? Just how stupid you are.
He already admitted it.
No, he
I know he's
can't.
conceded
Everything
it.
is just
He's already
instantly full. That's his
conceded.
problem.
He's already conceded my example. We know you can have a gradient in a container. He's just wrong. And he's going to, as a stupid twat Dunning-Kruger moron does, deny it indefinitely despite the fact he's conceded to it already. So I'm asking you a different question. How long is your stupidity going to get held to account here? Indefinitely?
See, I don't want to talk over you because you keep talking. So can I answer?
don't want to. Oh, thank you.
You
Concede.
already admitted, right, to gas pressure gradient in a container. You already admitted that, correct?
What I said was, if that kettle was
It's a
boiling for
yes or no
any certain amount of
question.
time,
You know what
the
an
temperature
open-ended and a
will...
closed-ended question is.
Kate, repeat the question.
A closed-ended question requires a yes or a no. Have you already admitted that there are gas pressure gradients in a container? Yes or no?
No, because you can't have a gradient
Oh
in
my
a container.
So did you?
But your example just proved
So
it.
did you concede
Pascal's
at some
law.
stage? Sorry, did you concede at some stage that over time it would equalise?
From the initial start, yes.
So prior to
Pressure
equalisation.
gradient.
So prior to equalisation, it would be gradiated then. Fuckwit. Prior to it equalising and being the same everywhere. Prior to that, it wasn't the same! You are so fucking stupid, it hurts me.
Me too. Is it Warren Evans, by the way?
How long's it going to take, mate? How long is your stupidity going to get held on trial here? How long will it take for you to have 1 ounce of humility and admit you're wrong? How long?
Are you saying that the Earth's atmosphere that will then equalise in pressure over time?
No, if the sky was a vacuum, back to our original question, still hasn't conceded he's wrong. So what you think by ham-handedly getting back to the question we asked you and you haven't answered, offered up a straw man which you had an incorrect assertion about, that would be you can't have a gradient in a container. Yeah, you can. It would equalise according to this fuckwit. That would mean prior to equalisation gradiated. But he still hasn't admitted it. His straw man's held on trial. His stupidity's still here. And he wants to segue back to the original question. No, the gas wouldn't equalise. It would fuck off into the sky vacuum you believe in. You stupid dumb fuck.
No.
We're still talking about your straw man. About your straw man that you can't have gradiated pressure in a container. Yeah, you can. You're just so stupid and have so little humility that you can't admit when you're wrong.
What I said was, if we're in a sealed,
He
if there's
actually
gradient
said
within a sealed container, then over
earlier
time
before.
that gradient will equalise over time, correct?
That gradient would equalise, would it? So you can have a gradient then. It is
No, I'm
possible,
talking about the whole
unlike you who are now talking over me. It is possible to have a gradient then. Yeah, the answer's yeah,
As I
fucktard. You just need to say yeah. Yeah, I said you couldn't have a gradient in a sealed container, but you can. I'm wrong. But you've got no humility and can't do that. So we're going to do this indefinitely.
If you are pressurising a sealed container, then yes, there would be a gradient at...
So you're wrong! When you say you can't have a gradient in a container, you're wrong then. So your incorrect assertion you've admitted to now. Say I was wrong when I said you couldn't have that.
Sealed container?
Sorry, you were wrong when you said you couldn't have a gradient in a container then. I want you to admit you're wrong because you've just said what I said, which is you can, having declared you can't.
If there's no pressure within a container and you pressurise the system, then it will soon equalise over time.
So therefore, at one stage, as I said already, it's gradiated in a container then.
If you pressurise a sealed...
Yeah, you keep babbling the same fucking stupid shit that doesn't just basically say, yeah, I got it wrong when I declared that you can't have that. The thing I'm now describing 4 times. You said that couldn't happen. You complete moron.
Are you going to let me talk or what?
No. Yeah, I'm going to get you to concede eventually that your declaration that you can't have a gradient in a container, and every time I start reiterating his incorrect assertion, he starts talking over me. What, and then asking if I'm going to let you talk? No, I'm reiterating the thing that you can't concede because you've got no humility. You declared you can't have a gradient in a container. We're going to stay here till you say I was wrong.
If you pressurise a
You're now distorting. Try and sort out your mic. You've got the rumpus problem. You want to say the same thing 16 times and get more and more distorted as you do say it. So get a hold of your control over your mic, step away from the distorted shit that is your equipment, and concede that you can have a gradient. You've declared it twice.
If you pressurize a sealed container, the pressure will equalize.
Therefore, before equalization is gradiated, contrary to your assertion that couldn't happen. That's contrary to your assertion.
I'm just waiting for you to answer the question.
It's not a question. It's me pointing out to my audience just how big a fuckwit you are, just how stupid you are, just how dumb you are to declare you can't have a gradient, only to now be distorting your mic to make it plain that prior to equalization, it's gradiated, something you declared couldn't happen. And until you admit that you're wrong, we're going to stay here indefinitely. We've got 2 shows today. I'm content to have this happen for 4 hours just to show how unbelievable you bastards are when it comes to being wrong. You're wrong. You can have a gradient. You've admitted it twice.
If you pressurized a sealed container from the start, the pressure will equalize over time, correct?
So that would be a gradient before equalization, then, something you declared couldn't happen.
Unless you want to describe it as something else.
Pressurize a sealed container.
Can I try for a second?
You said the same
Dude,
fucking thing 16 times. Right, I'm getting tired of it, you stupid shithead. At no point were you asking me if, upon reaching equalization, you don't have gradation, which is something you declared couldn't happen. Now, saying it 16 more times isn't you admitting that you were wrong when you said that couldn't happen. The thing that's happening prior to equalization, the thing you're now asking me about, you're a moron. You're wrong.
So every single engineer that uses Pascal's law to build...
Right, why are you appealing to every single engineer? You, not every single engineer, said you can't have a gradient in a container. You can. You're wrong.
Not in a sealed system, you can't.
Sorry, prior to equalization...
Oh, there we go. Yes, thank you.
Prior to equalization, it's gradiated then.
If you're pressurizing the system, yes, there will be a gradient.
So you can have a
Until
gradient.
that system is actually...
You're talking through me, you fucking asshole. So you can have a gradient in a container then?
Once it's being pressurized.
So upon being pressurized, you can have a gradient in a container. So it is possible, contrary to... I'm saying it again and you're talking through me, you fucking asshole. Yeah, I'll say it again uninterrupted. Prior to this declaration from you that you can have a gradient in a container, you made it explicit that that was not possible. So you are in fact wrong.
Did you actually understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
when you are
I did.
pressurizing a sealed container, the
You can
pressure
say it
will
20 more times. How many more times have we got to hear it? Sorry, we're not deaf. We heard you say it. We heard you admit that prior to it reaching equalization, it's gradiated. That's in contradiction of your statement that that couldn't happen, though, sir.
So Pascal's law's wrong then.
Sorry, you declared that you can't have a gradient in a container, and now you've made it explicitly clear that you can prior to equalization. So you would be wrong then in your assertion that
When
you can't
you are
have this.
pressurizing a sealed container, there is a gradient until it's actually pressurized.
So therefore you can have a gradient. Why am I getting rumpused again? So you can have a gradient in a container, contrary to your declaration that that is not possible then. You were wrong in that initial declaration. You were wrong.
The container has to be pressurized first, correct?
So your declaration was that you couldn't... You asked me something and are now continuing to talk. You declared at the beginning of this argument, the thing I'm trying to pin you down on, that you, quote, can't have a gradient in a container. That was your declaration. Now you are talking through me as I point out that you are asking me to concede that you can have a gradient when that was our objection to you claiming you can't have the pressure gradient prior to equalization that you're now trying to get me to concede to, even though it's in contradiction to your initial statement that you can't have that. At what stage... What stage? At what stage will you tolerate me having a full sentence without interrupting and then concisely answering me without a protracted silence? At what point will you concede that your initial statement, the one you were called out on for being a straw man that doesn't address the sky vacuum area that the gas could occupy, by using this straw man argument that you can't have a gas pressure gradient in a container, and are now asking me to concede that that is precisely what would happen prior to equalization. I want to know how long it will take for you to concede that your original declaration that that is not possible was wrong.
I'll speak slowly so you can understand. I said you can't have a pressure gradient within a sealed container.
And that would be wrong, because you've just explained that prior to equalization it would be gradiated, and then it would reach equalization. So your declaration that you can't have a gas pressure gradient in a container is defied by your statement that prior to equalization you can have a gas pressure gradient in a container. These two things are in contradiction, ergo your initial assertion was wrong, and indefinitely for the rest of this day, I'm going to hold you till you have some humility and just admit you were wrong.
So you're going to disprove Pascal's law then?
No, I'm going to disprove your statement that you can't have a gas pressure gradient in a container when you can, because you were wrong, and I want you to admit that.
Well, Mike went a little bit funny then. You must have bad equipment.
No, you were just talking while I was talking, pointing out that you're still yet to concede your incorrect assertion that you can't have a gradient in a container when you can. And I'm more than happy to have this happen indefinitely, all day, until you say, yes, you are right. Nathan, you are correct. You can't declare incorrectly that a gas pressure gradient's impossible in a container, because prior to equalization, as I've just asserted, you can have a gas pressure gradient in a container. Ergo, my straw man argument, trying to segue away from the fact that if the sky was a vacuum, the gas would expand in all directions, was in fact simply an incorrect straw man I asserted to distract from your demolition of my religious belief in outer space being a sky vacuum. So until you admit that your red herring, incorrect assertion, straw man, was wrong, we will do this all day.
Right, if I have a gradient that goes from 100 at the bottom to 0 at the top.
You don't get to ask us anything.
Answer the question, man.
You just have to admit you're wrong. That's the point that you'll get to move on to a different point. You're not moving on to anything until you say, I was wrong. You can have a gas pressure gradient in a container in contravention to what I declared and was called on by you as a straw man to distract away from the fact that the sky can't be a vacuum. I made an incorrect assertion that you can't have a gradient in a container when you can, as a distraction from my fundy sky vacuum belief. Until you admit that, we're going to do this all day. Just to point out how fucking unbelievable you fundies are when it comes to you getting it wrong. You've got not 1 ounce of humility and cannot admit that you're wrong ever.
Who's making the assertion that we live in a closed system?
That's the globe rhetoric.
It's not an assertion. It's the necessary.
It's a closed system on the globe.
It's a necessary antecedent to have gas pressure. We explained this when we demolished your first assertion. Now, of course, Globehead Fundy mute button time. He's going to start talking through me. So we made that plain initially. First, you need to have the necessary antecedent of a container to have a gas pressure, to have a gas pressure differential. That was our original assertion. Why are you asking us what we charged you with in rebuttal to your first bullshit claim that you still can't admit you were wrong about?
No, you're the ones making the claim that we live in a closed system.
No, second time, probably 5th time. It's the necessary antecedent.
Well,
how much slower do I need to say it?
If the closed system, then there can't be a pressure gradient.
Yeah, there can, you fucking moron! How dumb are you? You've just explained that prior to equalization it's gradiated, and now you're saying that if Earth is a closed system you can't have a gradient. Yet you're trying to link the shit that we've held you to task on for 20 minutes to your crap reification in regards to Earth. My God! It's like Rumpus when I pummeled him saying that you can't have space-time as reification into existence. And even when he was pummeled for 20 minutes making the same shit claim over and over, he still segued to the reification in terms of what it does on Earth with gravity. And now this shithead has still used his bullshit assertion you can't have a gradient in regards to a reification of an Earth. So what, even when it's been pummeled and you won't admit you're wrong, rather than admit you're wrong, you'll actually make the segue into your bullshit reification that that's what Earth does. It wouldn't be gradiated if it was closed, because my incorrect assertion that you can't have a gradient in a closed system applies, even though I've had 20 minutes of you holding me to task, pointing out that that's wrong. You're still going to make that bullshit assertion? What an outrage!
Come on. Admit it. Why don't we have an equal pressure over the surface of the Earth if we live in a closed system?
It's dynamic. This is a fucking straw man. You're wrong. You can have a gradient in a container and you won't admit it. So like I've just pointed out, you're still going to make your shit segue, red herring example, and link it with a reification to what Earth should or shouldn't be doing with your incorrect example that you can't have a gradient in a container. Yeah, you can! How many times?
Yeah. Containers have gradients. Just try a little snow globe.
You're
Try
a fucking
some
moron.
Snow globe. It's a closed container.
You are a fucking moron.
Equal pressure over the surface of the Earth.
No, you wouldn't. How many times? You've admitted prior to equalization you can have a gradient. So what, you think that by admitting you can have a gradient, you can then go on to declare that if Earth was closed it can't have a gradient because your bullshit that's been held to task for 20 solid minutes actually stands true and you can't have a gradient in a closed system? No, you're wrong! You yourself said it. It's gradiated prior to equalization. So you can! So this crap segue to saying that Earth can't be closed because we've got a gradient is the biggest pile of globehead nonsense shite I've ever heard.
Where is the pressure coming from?
The ground.
Dynamic system. It changes the whole time.
Another red
What's so hard
herring.
to understand?
Not interested in answering your stupid shithead questions. All I want you to do is admit that your declaration, now used as an example for debunking the closed system that is Earth, was wrong. You're not going to get to actually make the assertion at the end when you haven't admitted for 20 minutes that your bullshit assertion was wrong, debunked by your own words in regards to equalisation and the reaching of equalisation being gradiated. So you can have a gradient in a container, but your weak-ass example is to say that Earth couldn't possibly be closed because your bullshit wrong assertion is you can't have a gradient in a container when you can. How long is it going to take for you to admit that this segue to debunk a closed Earth is total bollocks?
You know, at some point earlier, he did also admit that if you were to open the container, that the pressure would escape.
He's talking through you.
So
Fundy globe mute button time
understands
chocolate. He won't let you make a concise summary chocolate. He's got to talk through you. He knows he's been absolutely pummeled. He knows he's been humiliated. His total lack of humility was only on display for as long as it was, because come hell or high water, he was going to make an equivocation that Earth couldn't be closed because you can't have a gradient in a container. An incorrect assertion that he wasn't going to let go of, and now we know the reason, because at some stage he must make the comparison, false though it is, that Earth can't be closed. What a fucking crock of crap! That's why he wouldn't admit he was wrong, because he needs to make the assertion that Earth can't be closed. What a load of bollocks.
But like I was saying, like he admitted at some point that if you were to open the container, that the pressure would escape. So apparently he understands that, but yet in his model, there's no container at all. So why is the pressure, the gas pressure, not escaping into the vacuum, buddy?
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who did tune in on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive thank you to all of today's G Plus and Discord panel for making this after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!